listening to the Hey Legal podcast.
CPD, when you want, where you want.
CPD for modern lawyers.
This free Hey Legal podcast is brought to you with the support of CaseLoad from Denovo Business Intelligence.
Coming up in this week's show, Emma Flood of Hey Legal is in conversation with Drew McCusker of the Glass Network. Drew tells us the reasoning behind setting up the Glass Network.
About 34 to 37% pay gap between men and women. And I was really shocked by that data because most of my...
Me too.
Yeah, right.
Drew then shares what he aims to achieve with the Glass Network.
Bringing those networks out of the closet, if you will, and across Scotland so that, we're all connected, that we're all harmonised in our representation and push for real, actual equality.
Drew then teases what will be discussed in his full CPD session.
Why equality and diversity is important. Why does it make sense for business to have equality and diversity and inclusion? And I'll probably plug the Glass Network a bit more because it's kind of my thing.
And finally, Drew touches upon the important topic of his failed dancing career.
Oh, I would love to learn to dance.
I'm sure you can dance.
I'm sorry, I wish I could learn to dance soberly.
A fun episode ahead, so let's begin.
Hello and welcome back to the Hey Legal podcast. I am your host, Emma Flood, and I am joined today by Drew McCusker, the founding president of the Glass Network, and is going to talk to us today about diversity and equality in the Scottish legal profession. Drew, thank you very much for joining us. It's really nice to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've never done a podcast before, so I feel like I'm on the Scottish version of My Favourite Murder. This is great. It's really good.
So Drew, can you tell us a bit about the Glass Network and why you started it and why you think we were really needing that in the Scottish legal profession? Yeah, sure. I guess the Glass Network kind of started back in 2014. I think first and foremost, the Glass Network is a feminist organisation that is meant for everybody. It came out because in 2014, we learned about the gender pay gap in the Scottish legal profession, which is about 34 to 37% pay gap between men and women. And I was really shocked by that data because most of my... Me too.
Yeah, right? Me hashtag that one. No, that's been done. New hashtags. So I wanted to understand why that was because most of my colleagues are women. Scotland is now made up of about 2/3 women when it comes to law, at least at the junior spectrum. We'll get to that later on. And I was like, why are my colleagues, my friends being paid less than men? What was also really interesting in that data was that there was no information about LGBT plus legal professionals. The only data that was available was about, I think at that point is about 10 years old, and it said that 1 in 25 lawyers was transgender, which I think that's just completely incorrect. So I was like, okay, well, actually there's a huge gap here. And there's a huge gap in why women are not being paid the same as men. And also there's a huge gap in actually where are the statistics and representation for LGBT plus legal professionals. So I wanted to go start an organisation. And then Women in Law in Scotland was created. And I was like, God damn it, fine, I'll have the gays and lesbians then. And so, we started the Glass Network. And the network, the name of it, people always said, oh, it's the stand for something, like gay, lesbian, and something. And I was like, no, the whole idea is the glass, So if I start having abbreviations for things, they can change all the time.
Yeah.
So it's literally just about the invisible connections that LGBT plus legal professionals know exist. People who work at this firm, at that firm, at this organization, through the gay community, through the legal community, and it's it's about crystallizing those connections. I mean, actually, we're here, we're together, we're lawyers and LGBT, and it's great. So that's what the Glass Network is all about.
Perfect. And did you find that it was well received? Were a lot of people really keen to be involved, and did you get a positive reaction to it?
I think we kind of got, yes, a very positive reaction, but also there were some kind of people being like, well, why do we need it? If you look at, jurisdictions like England and Wales, they have 2 LGBT organizations already on the go by that point. Ireland had one, France had one, the US had tons in their different states. And the whole reason that people, I think, in Scotland thought we didn't need one is that, equality and diversity, we're for it. There's a Scottish phrase, and we're all Jack Thompson's bairns. And I think that's a true sentiment. It's a true statement. And even look at the Scotland Act, equality and diversity is woven into that. So it's part of the fabric of Scotland. But we are also apathetic to it because we think it's already there. We don't fight for it. And when we don't fight for it, we have women getting paid 33 to 37% less than men. We have LGBT plus people being erased from data. And so, everybody was incredibly positive for it, but it's about making the case for it. Why do we need it? What will it do? And if we see more and more firms have their own internal LGBT networks, it's about actually, bringing those networks out of the closet, if you will, and across Scotland so that, we're all connected, that we're all harmonized in our representation and push for real, actual equality.
Yeah, I think that's true. Because, from some people I've spoken to, they have, groups internally within firms and they identify pay gap, they acknowledge pay gap, but they don't do anything to rectify it.
Yeah.
And I think that would be something that would be very useful. And I'm sure you're going to talk a bit more about that in your kind of session. So can you tell us a bit about what your Hey Legal session is going to be about?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I guess my Hey Legal section is going to be about, why equality and diversity is important, and not just, from the kumbaya point of view, but actually, on the ground. Why does it make sense for business to have equality and diversity and inclusion, shortened down to EDI? There's so many abbreviations these days. LGBT plus EDI. And, why that's important for our business. Then about, what steps a business can take in bringing about LGBT plus groups or EDI groups. And then, hopefully I can give some pointers on what firms can do after it's identified this. And I'll probably plug the Glass Network a bit more because it's kind of my thing.
Perfect. You go.
I'm on it. I'm so on it.
No, that'll be really useful, and I hope it's something that our listeners are really interested in. And I'm sure there'll be kind of practical strategies that they can implement, or even bring it to those groups that they already have. So that's great. Thank you very much. So there are some questions that we're going to ask all of our podcast guests.
Okay.
So the first one is, if you could learn anything, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked me that. They're going to ask me to re-explain Denovo Business Intelligence. If I could learn anything in law or outside of it?
Generally.
Oh, okay.
Wherever you like.
Oh, I would love to learn to dance.
I'm sure you can dance.
I'm sorry. I wish I could learn to dance soberly, really well. I think I'm a failed actor, and definitely I think a lot of lawyers are failed actors. And I thought, what, if I was a better dancer, I actually could be on the stage. Yeah, I could make it. Yeah, I could have my own TV show, and Dancing with the Stars could be Dancing with Drew.
Fabulous. I'm for it. And secondly, what do you think all lawyers should learn?
That's a good question. I think all lawyers should do not part of their training. I think that makes it too basic. There should be some sort of public service in their role. We, as a profession, we've gone through a lot of training and we've had a lot of opportunity and privilege given to us. And we make more opportunity and privilege for ourselves the longer we go into our career. But if you look at what's happening with the legal aid board, it's so difficult to get funding for cases these days. I think that for people to understand actually what the law means to people, every lawyer should learn, or every lawyer should do a year at least doing legal aid. Not because it's necessarily a criticism of the legal aid board, but it's to do with actually seeing who benefits from a lawyer's skills and a lawyer's technical abilities. So I think that's why I would say lawyers should learn who really needs their skills, not just the companies, but individuals who can come through your door at any time.
Perfect. That's such a comprehensive answer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellent. So Drew, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. Drew's session will be available on the Hey Legal site for our subscribers. Drew, you'll be pleased to know we've come to the formal plugging section of the podcast. Oh. So if you'd like to share your social media handles and those of the Glass Network with our listeners.
Thank you very much, Emma. So my Twitter is McCusker_Drew, and I post some legal things on that. Mostly the stuff I'm going to be talking about today will be coming from the Glass Network. Our handles for that are on Twitter are Glass Network SCO, and we also have a LinkedIn group for the Glass Network, and we are having our website done up just now, which I'll tell you maybe more about later on. But those are our handles, Glass Network SCO for Scotland.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll be sure to post those down below. As always, you can follow us at hey_legal on both Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to this Hey Legal podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. To hear the full CPD qualifying content, please visit
heylegal.co.uk to subscribe and join our community. Or you could ask your law firm to contact us for a firm-wide subscription. Learn more, be more with Hey Legal.